no one's got it sussed. You can have all the right bits in place and there's always going to be something missing or something that, because, it's hard, isn't it? I've got children of my own now and I know that I'm screwing up left, right and centre. And all I hope is that they will forgive me and that they will know how much I love them when I'm gone. I think that if we're able to have honest conversations, then that will help. I really do value talking to them and being honest with them, trying to not lie to them and trying not to shield them from absolutely everything. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like I wish my parents had told me a little bit more about what was going on.
You're a long-time Londoner, right?
Can't you tell? Just by looking at me. Yes, I was born in the Gold Hawk Road down in West London.
Okay.
Then fairly soon after that, I think we moved out to Wales, though.
Oh, okay.
But my mum was not British, or at least she had a lot of British people in her family, but she came from Chile, and she was a flight attendant on BOAC, and she flirted with my filthy father.
Who was a passenger?
He was a passenger. This is back when air travel was the most glamorous thing you could do.
Right.
And you got dressed up, and it was like going to the theatre, and everything was like first class. It was one big first class.
There's room and the seats and everything.
Oh yeah, and there's like menus for the meals, and my mum, she was very glamorous, and all the flight attendants looked like models, and she was 15 years younger than my dad, and he was a writer, travel writer, and I think that he was writing about the new line that had opened up from London to Japan, maybe, one of those routes. And he was on there and got flirting with my mum. She said her line was coffee, tea, or me.
Come on.
I don't know if that's true, but she was the one that came up with that. She thought that was very funny.
She's right. That's incredible. And it worked. Yeah.
I was appalled. I cancelled her. But that's what she reckons. And they got on like a house on fire and then met at a party at maybe at the British Embassy in Tokyo or something. It was all super glamorous.
Where did your mom live at the time?
So she was in Chile.
Okay.
In Viña del Mar. And that's where her family were based, although I think there were a lot of Brits in her immediate family and in that community. Mm-hmm. And they kind of kept themselves to themselves in Chile. And they were pretty, well, my mum always said upper middle class. I'd say, well, are we middle class? No, we're upper middle class. I think maybe even higher than that was perhaps what my family in Chile were like. I'm not sure. But anyway, they were nice people, but they were not, political agitators. They were at a time when Pinochet was coming to power. They were probably some of the people who were going, he's not that bad.
Right. The upper middle class.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Not full on horrible, I hope, but certainly not out there protesting and certainly not on the other side, because they were the kind of people who were saying, they're terrible, these lefties, like nothing worked. I mean, there was a lot of economic hardship out there after that Allende government, but so anyway, that's where my mum was at. And I think my dad was kind of responded to that level of kind of upper middle class conservatism, having come from a family that was working class. And, he grew up in Sussex and his family were servants essentially. And they were servants at a sort of Downton Abbey type, maybe not quite Downton Abbey, but that was the relationship that they had with their employers, kind of noblesse oblige. Their employer looked after them and considered them, it was a kind of friendly relationship rather than totally servile relationship. So my dad's family were looked after by the family they worked for, and they lived in a house that was kind of paid for a little bit by them. And then my dad was able to get a scholarship to a school that he wouldn't have otherwise have been able to get into, thanks to the patronage of that family that they worked for. And so he was on the path to to improving himself and becoming he was keen to be part of the establishment, you know, and to hobnob with people that he considered successful and
especially having
respectable,
grown up around in that setting, right? Like literally next door working.
Yeah. And I think, you know, whereas now there's so much mistrust of the upper classes for many good reasons, you know, but it wasn't like that back then at all, I don't think. Certainly not for my dad's family, you know, they respected those people very much.
And it was aspirational in a way. Yeah. And so when did your mom move to London? Was that the next move?
So she moved to London fairly quickly, I think. And then I guess I was born a couple of years after they got married in the late 60s. And then I think it all got pretty boring for my mum for a while. Like having just been on this whirlwind of international jet set travel, first class everywhere. Suddenly she had a baby. My dad carried on working, so he was away a lot of the time, travel editor of the Sunday Telegraph, as he was. And suddenly she was alone in a strange land with a baby, and they had a nanny for about a month, and then once the nanny was gone, she was on her own. And I think it must have been really lonely. And I found a diary of hers after she died, and I was leafing through, and there wasn't much in there, but there were short entries about her daily routine when she was in London and I was little. And it was a very hot summer, 1969, June. And she just kept on talking about, it's very hot again. Oh, it's so hot. and then it would be like, watch TV, talk to Tina upstairs, the old lady who lives upstairs, watch TV again. And after a while, the entries just get shorter and shorter. And she, you know, I miss Nigel, and then she stops writing entries and stuff because I think it must have been such a shock.
Wow. When did you find those? How old were you?
That was quite recently.
Oh, wow.
So that was, my mum died in 2020. And so I found those after we took delivery of all her stuff. I was sorting through it.
Did it make you happy? Did it make you sad?
No, that made me sad.
Yeah.
It made me sad, the idea that she felt lonely and that my dad was gallivanting. I mean, I don't think he was like doing anything inappropriate. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, although he may have been. But I felt bad that she was lonely, although not too bad because I know that there were lots of good times ahead and she loved being with us as children. And we had a very happy childhood, you know, because we were able to travel around the world. So there was a good period of about 15 years for me.
Oh, that's most of your, I mean,
that's
most of your childhood.
Yeah, exactly. When everything was going pretty well. And as far as I could tell, Mum and Dad liked each other. And we would go on these incredible holidays. We'd go to the US a lot. You know, My dad wrote about the USA and I loved it. I loved all the people out there and the places, and we were incredibly privileged in that way. And so we had these very intense, happy family times on holidays. And my mum loved all that, you know, she would say, you know, those were my happiest times when you guys were young and we were all together. And that was wonderful. It was magical. But then for me, things changed. The first time that I suddenly had a different conception of what it was like to be a family was when they sent me to boarding school.
Oh, wow. What age?
9.
Oh, okay.
And that to me seemed very unnecessary.
I mean, I didn't go to boarding school, but I've always viewed it as like punitive.
Yes.
Like not fun.
No, It isn't fun. And this was even a nice boarding school. This was not like do the boys' hall, you know, it was no uniforms really. It was co-ed. It was out in the country. It was pretty nice as they go.
In England.
In England, in Sussex. But just the fact of being separated from your parents at that age, very suddenly, you know, it was like I was only told a few months before I went, a couple of months, just before Christmas it was. I started in January for some reason. And it was like my worst nightmare to be separated from my parents, who up to that point I thought were absolutely perfect and brilliant, and I loved being with them. And I was like, why is this happening now? You know, and I really loved my dad because he wasn't around that much. So every time he got back,
right,
it would be like, oh, this guy's back. I love this guy.
Yeah, yeah.
He smells of, you know, in those days, everyone smelled of smoke. And
Yeah,
I
totally.
loved it. I loved ciggies, even as a young person.
My grandfather smelled like cigars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
On a cold night, your dad gets back. He's been on the tube. He stinks of ciggies. You know, I love you, ciggy dad. It was great. And my mum smelled of perfume and ciggies when they'd get back
Yeah.
from being on a night out. It was good times. My mum, you know, and in those days, my dad was the absolute king in my estimation. And my mum, less so. I loved her, but she was the one that had to look after us and do everything while he was away.
Right. So she's making the rules.
She's making the rules, and also a little bit not. Also just getting a bit ratty and just like watching a lot of telly, basically. And that's how I ended up watching loads of TV because my mum was knackered. You know, I've got a brother and a sister.
Where are you in the order?
I'm top guy. Sister is a year younger, brother is 5 years younger.
And did they go to boarding school as well?
Yes. So they went, and you know, the first year at boarding school was traumatic, and I didn't like it, and it was like, oh, this is terrible. And then you would have these even more intense holidays because the euphoria would be overwhelming to be back. It's like being let out of prison, literally, you know. You would have seen them only a couple of times during term. You're only allowed to see them a couple of times.
Wow. At 9.
Yeah, at 9, when a term seems like a year, you know. And so you go on holiday, and then we'd go on, you know, off to Florida or whatever it would be. And it would just like, yay! But then a week before the end of the holidays, I'd start getting depressed again. Because you'd know, I've got to go back. It's going to happen again. So that first year of that happening was painful. But then school started to become fun. You start making friends. And then you know, I was desperate to make intense connections to replace perhaps those family ones. So I made really good friends with people, and it was really fun being there. And I think it sort of switched over at that point from being your family that gave you all the love and that were the focus of your emotions to friends. And from that point on, it was like, no, my friends are my family. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, to be living with others at that young age, I mean, when did you start to realize that? Were you still like 10, 11 years old, like that young?
I wasn't thinking about it in those terms.
Yeah.
But I was just aware that whereas, you know, there was one term when I went back, maybe a year after I got there, where I looked forward to going back. At the end of the holiday, it was like I didn't feel that dread anymore. It was exciting to be going back. And I couldn't wait to see everyone.
Wow.
You know, and just be with them again. And it was, at that point, it was like, no, my family are now boring. Families are boring.
Right.
Mum and dads are boring. And the people I really want to be with are these people at school.
Yeah.
And that's when the fun's going to start again.
Yeah, of course. And then you become a teenager and it gets even more fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Were you there through into all your school years?
Not at the same place. And then, you know, after that, I went to this school in London where I met Joe Cornish, who I worked with on TV and on podcasts, and Louis Theroux and people like that who I've remained close friends with. But, you know, there was the option to be a day boy there because we lived in London, in Earl's Court. But I said, no, I don't want to be a day boy. I don't want to hang out with you fucking boring twats. I want to just be full-time there with all the fun people.
Yeah.
And I didn't even take on board that there was a financial dimension to that. This is a fee-paying school. It was already expensive to go there. It was almost double to be a boarder.
Right.
You know, it was only half an hour on the tube back home to Earl's Court.
But I mean, they trained you for this, right? You'd been thrown in and you'd made it work. So
it was absolutely their fault.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, if you make me be a day boy, that is going to ruin everything. I need to be a boarder. I need to be integrated into the social scene there at a very fundamental level. So my dad, I don't think I used the actual phrase, but my dad sort of gave in, you know. And I think that's the thing, is like looking back, he didn't have a leg to stand on because, as you say, he got this ball rolling. Yeah. Well, him and my mum agreed that it would be a good thing to send us off to these boarding schools. And he wasn't around enough, and he didn't have the relationship with me that he needed to tell me to fuck off.
Yeah.
To say, like, look, you'll be all right. We haven't got the money to make you a boarder. You know, I'm out of money, which was the thing that he didn't level with me about.
So that was the case.
That was the case.
Yeah.
And so that was the beginning. I think, well, I went to Westminster in 1982 or 83. And so for the next few years in the 80s, things came apart because he got into financial difficulty, having sent his kids to these fee-paying schools, but he couldn't afford it. But he was so determined. No, I'm gonna keep the upward trajectory of this climb going. I've done well for myself. I went to Oxford. I made all the right friends. I've now got a very respectable position. And
that's how you do it. You send your kids to boarding schools and to the best schools and to the most prestigious places.
Yeah. That's how he thought it worked. And, you know, I benefited from that. You know, I met Joe and I met Louis and I met lots of people who were so important in my life. But it came at the expense of so many things for my parents, because their relationship completely disintegrated as the money ran out. And my dad never really leveled with my mum about how everything was working financially. And so it was a disaster area. And that made it even more important for me to not be at home and to be with my friends, because they were my family at that point.
Yeah.
You know, and a good family, really close family. And we were putting on plays and we were making films and we were doing those things, those artistic projects that are such a intense, fun, bonding experience.
Yeah.
You know, and to this day, I don't get to do much acting, but the times that I've done it, I've loved it so much because it's the best. You know, you're on this production for a few weeks. I did a film called Hot Fuzz. And that was, for me, I was only in a couple of scenes, but I was in Wells, down west, where we were shooting a scene where the spire of a cathedral is pushed off and it smashes my head apart. And the whole cast was there, and it was this incredible cast that Edgar Wright had assembled of like our generation of comedians, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, Olivia Colman, Paddy Considine, and Kevin Eldon, and all these incredible actors and comedians. And then there was another generation like Edward Woodward and Sheila Hancock, and amazing people were all on this film. And we were all there for 2 weeks in Wells. Wow. And we'd shoot during the day and hang out in the evening and get pissed and tell stories. And
it's like boarding school.
It was like boarding school, yeah. And I loved it. I loved it so much. It was so fun. And I envy actors really very much for that life.
Right.
Yeah.
What could you remember an early project in theater or music or film or anything that sort of sparked it for you?
Well, stuff that I did with Joe Cornish, who always wanted to be a filmmaker. And so we were a unit, and we formed a kind of company called the Joe Ads Corporation, we called it. This is back when corporations were things to be aspired to. Right. In the aspirational 80s.
It made you sound real and important.
Yeah. I want to be a corporate. Basically, we want to run a corporation. And we thought not only that unfashionable idea, but also it would be half entertainment and half advertising. This was back when we thought advertising, that's the thing you want to do. That's where all the cool people are. Ridley Scott and all these people in the early 80s making these incredible films. They'd all come out of advertising. We put on a production of Bugsy Malone, which hadn't really been done at this quite stuffy school. You know, generally when people did plays at this school, it would be Pinter, maybe, if things were edgy, Antigone, something like that.
Right.
And we were like, fuck that, we're going to do Bugsy Malone. And we had a band, and we had splurge guns, and it was total chaos, you know, in the kind of grand hall there. And I think there's probably still some splurge up over on the proscenium arch. But it was incredible. It was the most fun. Just those few, the process of rehearsing, and then the week of shows that we put on. It was like paradise. I loved it. I just wished it could never end.
You got bit by the bug.
Got bit by the bug, fucked up my exams, and then my dad said, no more plays.
Really? Was it that direct of a connection for him?
Yeah.
And it probably actually was, right?
I would imagine. It didn't help. Yeah. But on the other hand, you know, that was obviously what I should have been doing. They were still determined for me to go to Oxbridge or something like that. That was never going to happen.
Right, yeah.
And what I should have done immediately was go to find my people, go to art school, which is what I eventually ended up doing. But at that point, it was like, no, you can't go to art school. That is what people do if they've got no options. That's what the loser kids, you see that guy over there? He can barely read. He's going to art school.
But he can draw.
Yeah. So, you know, that was the mindset, really.
Yeah. Wow. How far back in your ancestry can you go? Do you know much about grandparents, great-grandparents?
A little bit, not too far with my father's family, although there are members of my father's family, his sister, who died a couple of years ago, but she was a very good archivist, and she sent me a few things, but they only go back so far. I've got to dig into them a bit better. I mean, to be honest with you, it all seemed so uninteresting to me until my parents died, but reading your book, you know, I really did feel that same awakening that you felt at a certain point of just wanting to put the pieces together a little bit, and just, I don't know if it was the same for you because you seem like a well-adjusted person, but for me, it was when things started to go a bit wrong with me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think anything's gone disastrously wrong, but when you start realizing, like, oh, I've got these hang-ups and I've got these screw-ups that keep happening over and over again, and I've got these worries that keep resurfacing, and I keep making the same mistakes in relationships, and when you begin to realize that that's happening, you're like, where does this come from?
Yeah, that's the big question,
and the obvious place to look is your parents.
Because you want someone to blame.
Yes.
It can't just happen naturally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Someone to blame, but also you just want to understand a little bit more how it works, and if you need to worry about it, or maybe how to manage it, or, you know, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I never quite figured out exactly where all that stuff was coming from. But I did certainly try to find out more. And my mum, I mean, I was looking at some of my mum's family trees, and on her mother's side, there's weird connections to, like, the Spanish conquistadors and things.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have actual, like, are they books or
big family trees that she had made by some member of her family? Yeah, There's some weird connection to one of the big conquistadors.
one of those big guys.
Yeah, one of the main guys.
Yeah, in Spain.
In Spain, there's some distant connection. And there's sort of military people, and it's all fairly kind of high-end from my mum's side, I think.
Yeah, and on your dad's side, British?
Yeah, British, thoroughly British. I mean, a few Brits in my mum's family tree as well. But, mainly Brits with Dad. Yeah. It was interesting to find out, though, that I didn't even know the stuff about his parents being in service, as they call it, until after my dad had died, which was in 2015. And then I found out a lot more. And it was really interesting. Like, my grandfather, I never even knew, I didn't know any of my grandparents.
Oh, okay.
I met my grandmother a few times. She came over.
Your father's?
Mother's.
Oh, mother's, okay.
Mother's side, yeah. She came over a little bit in the 70s and stayed with us in Earl's Court. But she was quite frail by then, and we didn't bond. Right. You know. So, and I never knew my dad's parents at all. And I never knew my mum's dad as well, which is a shame. She always used to go on about like, he's who you're like.
Oh,
he was funny. He was, he liked music, and he was a sweet guy, and everyone loved him, you know.
Yeah. Have you seen photos of him?
Yes.
Do you look like him?
Not really. No, he's quite tall.
You can tell from.
Yeah. I got my runtiness from my dad's side, I think. But he, apparently he was the fun, easygoing guy, like me.
Right, exactly.
But no, I definitely got loads of my dad's stuff as well. Like, my dad was, in his own way, very lovely, and I loved him very much. But he definitely was the kind of intense guy. And I've got some of that intensity, definitely, and that inward spiraling capability. And I really feel like him being a travel journalist was that man thing of just justifying to yourself basically buggering off. But you know, it's kind of with impunity, because you're like, well, I'm earning the money.
Gotta work.
I've got to work. Sorry, bye. And also when you're away, you know, my dad did love his family, but when you are away for work, you know, you have that sweet romantic feeling about your family, like suddenly they become totally perfect and you miss them so much and you can't wait to go home to them. But after a while, you know, you realize you've got to be careful, for example, when you make that call home, because it might be that everyone at home is not having such an ideal sweet time as you are out doing your work.
Right.
And you ring up on a stressful evening and you talk to your wife and she's like tired and pissed off, and you're like, oh, I'm going to call you so often.
Right.
You know.
Wow.
And it's that kind of, I always think of it as a kind of man in space syndrome. I always wanted to make this movie about a guy going out and having to work in space and missing his family from space, because it's the perfect place to miss your family from, because you can't go back. You're like, sorry, I'm in space.
They don't have phones.
Yeah.
Either.
But I think like that's, I always thought maybe that's what Bowie was channeling a little bit.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
You know, that kind of glamorous isolation of being Major Tom floating in your tin can, and you're kind of free of all your responsibilities in a way.
Yeah. Do you think as a kid, did you resent, I mean, I know you were really excited when your father came home.
Yeah.
Did you resent him for leaving? You didn't? No,
never crossed my mind. I was never, like, when I started watching dramas where people would have those confrontations, you were never there!
Right.
You know, that was never going to be a confrontation I would have had with him at all. Because I was just grateful to be with him when he was back. And it didn't cross my mind that there was another option for him. You know, I just assumed that adults knew what they were doing, and they were doing what they were doing for a good reason.
That's a very logical assumption for a kid. I mean, it's, I don't even know what my response is. That's great. That's like to be so sort of astute and well-informed.
I don't know if it was astute. I just wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah.
I think it was like, I was so happy, you know, I was mainly happy. So I was happy to trust them, and I did trust them, and they looked after us really well. And I knew that they loved us, and I knew that they did everything they could for us. And it was only later that I realized, like, oh, maybe you didn't have to do absolutely everything for us in that way. And there were compromises you could have made that would have made us a tighter unit ultimately. And ultimately it did all come apart. And it was weird for me seeing other families where they were so much closer, you know. I mean, I knew a lot of children with divorced families, and there were a lot of other of my friends who'd been to boarding schools, and the setup was quite similar to mine.
Right.
But then when I started working and meeting other people from different backgrounds, and I saw what their families were like, it was like, oh, that's weird. What, you phone your mum every week? Okay.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I mean, so many people I've talked to, it's really your surroundings that inform everything you know, right? I mean, you read my book, but I was a kid with a black father who wasn't in the picture, and a young single white mother, and no money, and we were a totally normal family because everyone I lived around as a kid was in a pretty similar situation, like all races and mixes, and no one had money, and so I had a really incredibly happy, normal childhood. But But later you learn that, it's like weird. Other people live like they're on TV.
Yeah.
That's what I thought when we moved to Salt Lake City, Utah. I was like, they have 2 parents.
Yeah.
Both of them, and kids, and like sisters and brothers. And so, that's when you realize it.
Yeah. But it makes you realize as well that no one's got it sussed.
Right.
And
that those people aren't always happy.
No, absolutely not. And you can have all the right bits in place, and there's always going to be something missing, or something that, because, it's hard, isn't it? I've got children of my own now, and I know that I'm screwing up left, right and centre. And all I hope is that they will forgive me, and that they will know how much I love them when I'm gone. And I think that if we're able to have honest conversations, then that will help. And I don't know, I'm not 100% certain that that's the right way to go, because I do think that you can't expect to be a child's best friend, because it is a different relationship. And there are some things that you will never be able to really have with your child that you have with your mate. You know what I mean? It's not useful to dump absolutely everything on them.
Right.
So you can't just say everything that you might want to. But I really do value talking to them and being honest with them, and trying to not lie to them, and trying not to shield them from absolutely everything. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like I wish my parents had told me a little bit more about what was going on.
What is family to you?
It's a lot of conflicting stuff, isn't it? Like, on the positive side, it is dependable people who won't judge you, people who love you whatever you've done, people who don't care if you've screwed this up or that up, and they're not really interested, because you have this shared set of experiences that are fundamental to you. And that's the most important thing. So they're like, okay, whatever, they'll always be there. And I was really happy that in the last months of his life, I was able to look after my dad at home. When he got cancer, he was 91. He came to live with us in Norfolk. And I was sorry that it didn't turn out to be the kind of idyllic, cathartic, bonding experience that I had fantasized about, where I'd ask him all the questions that I'd always wanted to know the answers to, and he would tell me, well, this is why we did this, and this is why we did that, and this is why I was away so often, and I may have seemed cranky here, but this is because this, and this. Of course, none of that happened, and it was frequently stressful and tense and non-cathartic. And I do remember a time when, very near the end of his life, after a few months of him being there, one day, and it had been a really tough week, and then I said to him, Dad, David, my brother, David's coming to visit. And he went, oh, thank God. And so there were times like that. But despite all that, and my mum was really good after he died, and I was like, I don't know, Mum, I'm not sure I did a great job with Dad. And she said, it was brilliant what you did for him. And I really admire the fact that you took him in, the implication being I wouldn't have done it, but by that time right. They were no longer together.
Right.
So she was like, I think it's really great what you did for your dad, and I that mattered a lot to me. But I suppose so that kind of unconditional loyalty, that is a valuable thing about family. Really valuable. And on the other side, for the same sorts of reasons, because of that shared history, those shared experiences, that intimate knowledge of what the molecules of your personality
right.
are, they can push all your buttons. And it's really, really annoying and painful sometimes, just at the wrong moment when they decide to do it. It's maddening like nothing else, But that doesn't happen. Actually, I've got a nice relationship with my brother and sister, and even though it's sort of quite formal and I don't see them all that often, they're both busy doing their own jobs, and we never grew up having that kind of let's all hang out together kind of relationship.
Right.
I do see them, and it's always great to see them, and like every time I see them, the more I'm impressed by what they're doing. And I do wish that we sat around and minutely dissected my mum and dad's life a little bit more with them, but they never seem to be up for it for some reason.
You've tried.
I have tried a little bit, but they're like, that's okay. We've read your books.
You just go do that thing on your own. Adam, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Nabil.
It's been wonderful.
It was lovely.
Adam Buxton, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.